so these people, they're keeping the world alive. Now, I totally see why. In tune with nature, connected to the universe. And through their oral history, they basically have preserved their knowledge, preserved the culture, the knowledge. And okay, creation stories wise now. No, just probably going with it. Yeah, creation stories, basically. Interested in some of the creation stories. Example. What I find similar all around the world, especially Asia, the Pacific, Australia, Africa, ancient America as well, and Europe. But Europe is a funny one because of what's gone on in history and that. But I find them all, yeah, they all speak on a supreme being. And they talk about, I recognize that the supreme being have a lesser beings, like basically what one could call God, the devil. They have a team, kind of a spirits working for them type of thing. But they don't say God or the devil. The devil, I've never even heard an indigenous person speak on the devil. They will speak on bad spirits, good spirits, and get into the rocks, to the water, into humanity, into animals, into trees, and manipulate. So these are considered bad spirits. Science may say where's like energy. Streets might say vibes, so it's all the one thing. Sometimes people have a different language to say stuff, but we're all talking about the same thing. Because energy, I think it's easy for people to connect to the word energy rather than the spirits in the room flying around or something watching us and we're communicating. So energy, everything is energy. Energy don't die. Can't be destroyed. So that's why I like. There's also different research I do in order to kind of connect with different things. I mean, yeah, one, I do look at academic scholars. Yes, I do listen to indigenous peoples and read about indigenous people, visit them. And also I look at other things like, I like cosmology. I like studying things like, I watch a lot of things on consciousness. And consciousness is very interesting, especially where you'll get modern scientists not really credit consciousness too much. Like what consciousness really is. I love all these deep type of documentaries, and I dive deep into it. But what I always find is what got me into it is connecting with indigenous knowledge, because they are the first, the Dogon tribe of Mali. How these people who were considered as primitive Africans, that's what they considered them. How do they have knowledge of this star system, the white dwarf star? And they have interesting creation stories saying that they were visited by supreme intelligent beings from the stars. And they have a lot of deep stories, but some stories are just mythical. And Africans know they're mythical. Some people might think that they were serious about it. And then to some things that, yeah, the myth is much more deeper than just a myth. So it is, think about it, like when people teach children, sometimes you might teach them some myths in order to understand the story. People could be children's books, that's fiction, a lot of it in it. So, it's just the same thing, and what to take serious and what not to take serious. And I think throughout life, you figure out, what to take serious and what you don't, But the knowledge that you have, it's amazing. It seems to connect to what's going on today, but today is not practicing natural fun, so this is why it's interesting, yeah. So I think
see religion, right? A lot of religions, especially like the Abrahamic religions,
yeah,
Judaism, Christianity, Islam, it connects, but it connects to stories about people and their experience with the divine or the divine creation. So the teachings that we receive today, you know, like the doctrine and the scriptures and all these things, a lot of them have been used to manipulate the masses and, you know, control certain groups of people. But actually the teachings within these religions connect back to our histories, and a lot of those teachings were brought forth through the Moors and the traveling into Europe.
Yeah.
So that thing of like that one supreme being, the way it's been almost like capitalized upon within the three main religions that we know, and then the opposite of religions like the Mormon Church and different forms of Christianity and different sects or whatever. Again, it's just a way of compartmentalizing and almost like controlling certain groups of people. But actually, these stories are about real people that really existed and that came through to deliver a message, which I think, you know, it's a powerful thing. And even like when you talk about the bad spirits in Islam, I remember learning about the jinn in Islam. So I was told a story about before Adam, about how the jinn roamed the earth. And it's the Iblis or Shaitan or the devil or whatever. When God created Adam, because the jinn at the time, they run amok on the earth and they were doing different things that they weren't supposed to connect them with certain things and, you know, debauchery and all these things. So we banished the jinn to the spirit realm so they couldn't exist in the physical anymore. And they couldn't enjoy like the physical things of this earth. And Shaitan was called Iblis, was a part of the jinn. But because he was faithful to the supreme being or to God, he ascended to the level of the angels. Now, when God created Adam, this is the story or the fable, he refused to bow to Adam because he said, these new people that you're creating, you know, this new race, these humans, they're not going to be any different to the jinn. So the whole thing about the devil is constantly trying to prove that humans are no different to the jinn, which, whether that be true, whether that be not true, I think that's a really powerful story, you know, to teach to society, like as a people, to learn and understand how the ego can trip us up. That's what I took from that, you know. So it's really interesting, and also like the Nancy Spider stories, for example, was really important message in that about Nancy Spider, the West African story, and he had his children and all his children, you know, who had different strengths and qualities, and that was all about how everybody's different, we all have different things that we can do, but we actually need each other in order to progress and to move forward. So a lot of these stories are really powerful, but we also have to look at the humanity and the reality. We know there's not some spider in the world, it's doing things really neat. So it's also about applying practical common sense. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
To utilize those stories and to learn from them.
Yeah, I mean, from what I take of you know, because I'm not religious, but what I take from it is recognizing the forces of nature. Force of nature, negative and positive, they need each other, but it's how you use them. So, example, the Maasai tribes who were met, they spoke about their god called Engai. You have like two gods, Engai and Enkai, and one of them is more negative, and then one is more positive, and it's basically connecting to the force of nature. So each individual person, we have it in us to be good or bad. Basically, you know, so if you put a knife in someone's hand, they can chop a vegetable or they could stab someone with it. So it's down to the person, isn't it? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's like we all have it in us, and some people deal with religion. They might say things like what you said to me sometimes, like, well, sometimes you get voices in your head and it's the jinn. whispering, wanting you to do bad things and this and that. But regardless of that, or it could just be, you can look at it from energetically. Well, is thought. We're made up of energy, so yes, positive energy is what we try to gravitate towards, but it's recognized that negative energy always comes your way, or comes, it's always there. So how can you use that negative energy to turn into positive energy? So you can only change the format of energy. We're so powerful, but people don't even realize how we can change energy forces in the world.
That's where we look at alchemy, isn't it? And transmutation of energy. That's something I'm really interested in looking at, as how we, like, say, turn negative into a positive, or just use the negative in a way that can drive things. For example, you might have a negative experience, which would then adjust your level of consciousness and make you shift. I always find it fascinating about, you think that, like, things like religion. So religion just means put back in line, religion, realign people into a certain way of being. And I always think that, like, when you're born, from my experience, a lot of babies, when they're born, right, if you really study that baby is already who the baby is supposed to be. Obviously babies cry, but actually their personality, their characteristics, you can see elements of that even from as soon as they're born. Do you know what I mean? So we are, as beings, we are going to be being created divinely to carry out a certain mission on this earth, to speak. Then it's about the different negatives and positives that you encounter along that journey that then shift your own personal level of consciousness to shape your reality. Then we've got collective consciousness. So it's how all those different conscious states of mind come together to then create our environments in the world around us.
Yeah. Well, funny you say, see, when you talk about God and the devil before, there's some people who thought, well, they put it like, it's the same person. I can't, when I say the same person, it's the same thing. But it's negative, it's positive. And then if you look at the stories of religion, who made the devil? You say God. And it's like, how did you make this such wicked thing if you're the also great, powerful, so it's much more deeper. And then you got to look at the ancient stuff, which paved the way for their stuff, which came later. And interesting one, consciousness as well. Anyway, I'm connected with this. See, like, you've got Jesus Christ. Okay, if you separate them names, okay, you got Jesus, that's just a name. Then you got Christ. Well, Christ is meaning like, they say the anointed one. Well, what does that mean really? Does it mean that a man walked on water? Does it mean that he turned water to wine? None of that. But basically, when you are able to reach the highest level of consciousness, you are the anointed one. And it doesn't mean that you're going to predict 2,000 years what's going on, because it's about the time that you're in, say, making that difference more so. So that's what was interesting. I was looking at a lot of Egypt, people who are studying on the chemists on deeper levels of dealing with, it's something called the Christ consciousness. That's what they call it, the Christ consciousness. And it's, because we have the ability in us to reach higher dimensions at certain times. It could be in certain places, whatever's gonna like connect that high vibration to you, so. And then some even ancient Africans, and how they believe that, like, you could reach high dimensions, way higher than the fifth dimension within, so. But your imagination's everything. Everything starts off with an imagination.
I've heard people talk about the Mayans, actually, and people say, where are the Mayans? And there's some people that believe that the Mayans exist, but on a totally different frequency in a different dimension. So we can't access them. So only certain people that can access the Mayans. I've heard that. I don't know how true it is, but, it's interesting to think.
I met the descendants of the Mayans in Mexico. I went to Chichen Itza, and there's one still there, and but it's not like quite like the same these days and that. But they still have a lot of knowledge, but not like how they would back then. Now the Mayans got their knowledge from the Olmecs. The Olmecs done the calculations first. You know, they brought that knowledge from like West Africa and these places because they didn't have a calendar before the Africans got there. You know, so and then look at the pit. You've got pyramids in Mexico, not the same as Egypt, but there's still pyramids there. You know, so where would they get the idea from? You know, I don't think people just think to all the pyramids. I think it starts one place and then moves on. You know, so the Mayans was interesting. Actually, it was interesting the story of they were talking about the end of the world and all that one. I spoke to them about that because I was actually dead in 212 September time, and then supposedly was saying the end of 212 was the end of the world, and they were just speaking on it's just another cycle, a new consciousness. So that old world of, you know, because also the age thing within that, we're coming out of Pisces and going in Aquarius. So is supposedly, and speaking to a brother called Tata Hammurabi, the Grand Master of the spirituality where I come from South Africa, he basically connects religion, what we said about Abraham religions, with Pisces. So as we're going into Aquarius, he believes that people are going to start waking up about, and I don't know if it means basically everyone. I don't know, but there's going to be a massive awakening, put it that way. Yeah, it's all these different ages, and a lot of the Egyptians and different Africans writ about these ages. They were so knowledgeable; they knew when this time was coming, how to prepare for this age. And then now, when we deal with years now, we talk about like BC and all that. That's I mean, I think it's mad even when we just deal with BC. Like you're losing calculations of time. You know, BC, AD, and all that one. I know it's before Christ, after that, but you know, what year is it really? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's different years in different places. You know, so it is. But that's what it is. It's connecting to as many people now, and with the Zoom. What I like about the Zoom, you can just be in your home and do a Zoom with someone on the other side of the world.
Yeah, it's powerful, isn't it?
Take advantage of this technology, you know, that's what we got to do. Rather than I'll do a Zoom with someone across the world just to play a video game with them or something like that, you know, speak about some real things going on. You know, got to use your media as great as possible, you know.
Yeah, more philosophical sort of conversations.
Yeah,
are really important. I always remember being in school, right, and we talked about the moon and how the moon works. I don't know if you remember where they got the ball and the torch, and they shine the torch on the ball, and then it created a shadow on the wall. And he said that's how the moon is, you know, goes into a crescent and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So they say that the earth is the ball and the torch is the sun, and that's how we get the crescent moon. But I've seen times where the sun's there and the moon's there and the moon's a crescent. So that doesn't make any sense. And I've always thought, like, you know, these types of conversations, we talk and discuss and debate, you know, below, I know there's a lot of people that talk about the flat earth theory.
Yeah.
Which is the one. Do you know what I mean? But it's these conversations that we connect and, you know, we can really pull together all that information to really find truth. So that's what it's about, especially as I say with the Discovery podcast, it's about finding that collective, like tapping into that collective knowledge, and finding the thread of truth that goes through everything. And like you mentioned, you know, looking at the importance of African history and African spirituality. So going back again to the return project, sorry, so another thing, but to the Discovery podcast.
Yeah.
Can you speak about some of the interviews that you've had and some of them, the ones that have affected you the most or had the most impact on you?
Yeah. Well, it's really expanded now because I'm not also. I mean, even though I still do discovering, but I do original people more so. Like, I mean, I basically it's on my channel now, Culturation, James Diboe. That's my YouTube channel. So I'm basically doing things a little differently now. I do things on my own time, so it's a lot better. It's a lot better now as far as time because I can do a Zoom anytime. I haven't got to do it between a certain time to use the studio. I can do Zooms with people anywhere in the world, anyway. So, but I enjoyed discovering anyway, done many seasons with it. And some great guests, do different type of guests on. And I feel like that I could have made it where only people who concentrate on this can get on it. I went like that. I wanted to, how can I involve a lot of people? How? Okay, maybe not everyone is into history. Maybe not everybody is into politics. Maybe not everyone's an activist. Maybe not everyone's into business. Maybe. So we can't, sometimes what it is when you feel pressure, if anyone tries to put pressure to say, well, you need to do it this way or that way, then something's not natural. You've got to do it the way you are made to do it. Some people might be good at activism. Some people might be good at history. Some people might be good at this. So it's not worth ever looking at people to think, well, you should be doing this if they're not made to do that. Or maybe the fact that people learn from things as well, because that's one thing I can say as when I was more younger, I was more politically, more activism style than historian. And that was through Malcolm X and people like that. But we've also got to learn from them people as well, their mistakes. Don't just get blinded by this is Malcolm X or this was Elijah Muhammad or this person. We've got to recognize mistakes of greats, how to, not be in the same situations. At the same time, we've got to look at some of our greats wanted to integrate too much, some of them also. And for me, like, if you want to build up something economically and do something great for your people, like the Discovering show, everyone who's been on my show is Black people. There's no other guest outside of the Black race. And the reason why that is because it's great for us to be able to do something where we don't feel like we need other people to be able to make something work. So shown is proof. I knew I could prove that I can bring different people on. We can have many different conversations around, and whether it's Black excellence, our history, people's talent. Some people got business, by the way, chefs on there, spirituality, vegans, other journalists, historians, activism. So we've had all different types of people on it. And one thing, what I'd say I benefited from it also, it was almost like therapy for me, having these conversations. And I weren't even realizing at the time when I'm having them until I've thought back later. And then it come to a point where, say, I had a little break from doing podcast for about, well, after I'd done the season 5 with Chase, I had a little break for about, until I got to South Africa at the start of there and doing live videos there. It wasn't even actually Zooms, it was just like get the camera out on some raw footage, and we just remember sitting in a car and I'm interviewing someone in South Africa who was considered as a coloured, as in we just say Black, but they, what is there. And then someone in Namibia, you know, and it weren't even the case. And in Namibia, the interview was interesting because it wasn't even like, we just like, okay, where are we going to do this interview? We're just on the street, you know. Oh, there's a little chair there. Okay, sit on the chair. There's a little crate there. Being creative.
Organic, isn't it?
That's what it is. And put your camera on. You know, it took a while to balance it, but it worked in the end. Record button, done. And that's it.
Right.
So, you know, even like, I'm flexible with how to do things more. So, you know, I used to pick some guest stuff when I was doing Discovering Show, and that some people couldn't make it. And sometimes I pick them up. Or sometimes you know, it's very community spirit, normal spirit, where, you know, I don't remember I ever getting picked up when I was first going there, whatever, you know what I mean? You gotta make your own way. But that's what it's about, though, you know, making things work. You know, and also I did slideshows on there as well, where I wanted to show images of all these peoples so people could get the picture, you know, so to show, well, and then some people are very surprised, saying, I didn't know these people look like this, and, you know, didn't know that they were still alive. And so, but eventually, though, you know, people become exterminated when you live in, when you live in, if you left protected, but I don't believe these people are protected. They're not. Indigenous people are never protected. They're never, you know, so.
It's only hard that it just vanished that we'd never know anything about.
You wouldn't even know. Like, I could go back to one of these countries in 10 years, 15 years, and they're gone. Then I'm like, no, they was really here. And then people could be saying, you don't have any indigenous people. And then I'm like, well, I've got pictures of them, and, you know, I've got the evidence of them. I have to probably video footage on this one, that one. Because in time to come, these pictures of indigenous peoples, which I'm happy of taking, are going to be more bigger in years to come, because as they decline, and not just decline, the whole lifestyle declines, so where they're just absorbed into modern day society. And it's all history, though. I mean, I studied what happened in Asia to these indigenous peoples, and I'm talking about before the European even got there. These dynasties from China, where they were African dynasties, black peoples there. Now, when the Mongols came, they started to take over these dynasties, and then a lot of the black people got pushed into like Southeast Asia areas, and they started to decline. Then there was some still left there from the Qin dynasty, and then they seemed to disappear, like I said, from the Europeans. But even before the Europeans got there was an expansion of Austronesian people that came from south of China and Taiwan. And these were the mixture of the Africans and the Mongol, so the African Chinese mix. So we look in Southeast Asia and some parts of Polynesia, you might look like mix between African and Chinese type. You see them like quite darker skin, kind of African features, but they'll have Chinese eyes type. And you see some of them in Tonga, even when I was there, Samoa, and you see some of these places, you know, they look like mixture, you know what I mean? So history goes way back, and it's all down to nature. I mean, the people in the hot environments always seem to be different type of people. People of the ice are totally different type of people. And then there's the people of the sand, different type of people.
And I would like to say about features, so like the European noses tend to be thinner.
Yeah.
And it's like more narrow, because when you take in air, you need it to be thin to insulate the air to warm up the brain. Whereas in Africa, you need the air to be cooler to cool down the brain, so the nostrils tend to be wider. So it's all these different features that it's all down to like geographical location, and even like the hue of the skin depends on the climate, the sun, you know.
Well, the Eskimos, some people are asking, well, why didn't they just turn white? And it was down to them eating fresh fish and the oils in it, and so that's what helped them keep their melanin a little bit, you know.
And
So
also, even though they were in snow, you get a lot of snowy places where there's still sun. You know, it's just not hot enough to melt the ice, but it's still yes. So
really interesting. No, it is. I mean, you're the spiritual type of person yourself, where it's having that connection where when people travel, sometimes people feel you have to travel like a true tourist type, where you haven't got to go like that. Sometimes you just go places and you'll find by speaking to the local people, you know, they could take you to good accommodation. That's where you're not paying these mad prices, and you know, ways to get about rather than costing you loads, and also where you're going to eat. You know, sometimes these people will cook for you, you know, and it's all about helping each other. But it's not, we don't have that mentality too much here. I'll help each other, you know. So the true spirit.
It's that global network, that global community of people, and I think that's something that you've been able to really harness well through the original people's podcast and the stories that you tell through the culture and some things. You know, it's a really special thing, and it's interesting that you talk about it being a form of therapy for you, because that's what conversation is, and that's what connection is. Sometimes we can ruminate in our own heads with our own thoughts, but when you have that conversation with someone that's on your level, or you know, on the same level, you speak about different things, you can connect. It's so powerful because it just lets you know that you're not alone in your thought processes. Another thing that does that as well is music, and that's something that I want to touch on before we finish, is your connection, your relationship to music, because I know from an early age, you know, getting all this knowledge and information from your family and exploring and studying yourself, and also being a big fan of hip-hop artists, people like Nas and different, you know, the Wu-Tang Clan and different people that talked about, you know, real things that you could connect with. You then started to make music as well from a young age. So that must have been a form of therapy for you to get, you know, having all this knowledge, a way to just get it out. You know?
Yeah. Well, it is. That's when I realized, listen to the conscious artist. You can listen to any artist and they might be able to show you how to rhyme or, you know, but when people are like putting true knowledge into the raps, and that to me is more powerful than just someone just being a lyricist, because, you know, it's a bit like Tupac, Nas, Rakim, KRS-One, Big Daddy Kane, QG Rap, you know, these to me are like true artists, the Wu-Tang Clan. I like Mobb Deep as well. You know, some of their classics that they've made. And you know what? There's a lot of artists, and I've seen the 50-year hip hop birthday of hip hop, and it's interesting that over the 50 years, what's happening. But I'm a 90s man. I'm into I grew up on the 90s rap. So, but at the same time, I did go back to the old stuff. Like I listened to Ice Cube when Ice Cube was probably one of my first favorite rappers from back in the day. I didn't really, because back in the day, I didn't really like it in the 80s. I was still into the old, well, Motown music, reggae music, and all different other music. I wasn't ready for it in the 80s. But I liked Ice Cube, though. That was the only one I liked. And then later on, when people like Nas come out, and especially Nas, I'd more say Nas because he was deep. Even though he's a good lyricist, he's deep. And he also spoke about Africa a lot. He spoke about Africa a lot. And later on, he's doing tunes like talking about Timbuktu in the Icon tune, teaching the kids. You know, how many rappers do a tune teaching kids about the history? And he done it very well. Broke down a lot of great things on there. So, and then the Wu-Tang Clan, like the Wu-Tang Clan, especially Raekwon and Ghostface, people like that, Inspector Death, Method Man. Yes, so there's loads of artists, but let me say loads of artists. there's sometimes you might just like the sound of a beat or the sound of, but true artists though, I wouldn't say there's a load of them. There's not too many. There's only few who are true artists. You know, yeah. So I still listen to hip hop, but I only listen to the old school hip hop artists. Don't listen to any new. No one new has impressed me. You know, so
You ever listen to Kendrick Lamar?
not really. No, no. I've never really listened to them.
He's
But
all right.
people talked about him, said, "Oh, he's conscious and stuff and like that." But I think what it is, you know, what it is these days. You must be super extra creative because most things have already been done. So this is the test of being creative. If you can still be creative and use your imagination or your something from within you to, so that's what it's about because a lot of things have already been done. And years ago, you used to have like different set of artists, a collection of different people, and it wasn't about who's your favorite rapper. They were all your favorites because they were all different. But nowadays, everyone's just jumping on the same bandwagon, and all a lot of them sound the same, dressing the same, looking the same, and so there's no originality.
That's it. There's a lot to be said about that. I've got my opinion on that politically. Because I feel like there's been a political agenda there to narrow demands of a lot of our young creatives, particularly who are making pop music. And that's been allowed to push forward into the mainstream has been a particular type of way, setting a particular type of narrative, for the, you know, the systemic agenda that we know exists. And that's, you know, the power of storytelling. And I think that's something that you, with your discussions and your podcast and your teaching of history, has been able to do really well, you know. So
well, there's some even also yourself, you were on your first season. You came on first with Albert Trebler. And I was interested in you speaking about usually the first actually musicians I actually interviewed on there. So that was interesting. Then later on you come back on and you speak about KRS-One. Just doing a tune with KRS-One, and that was like, I thought that was amazing that you worked with KRS-One, this artist that from one of the greatest artists that's influenced a lot of it. I just came up straight on anyway. So yeah, good to be back anyway.
So we're talking about music. Now, a lot of the indigenous tribes that you've visited, what's been their connection to music? Like, have you been able to experience different music?
Indigenous people, music. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, when I'm in around the Maasai tribes in Kenya, and as I'm visiting them, they're also, you know, as they show me different things, they also dancing, jumping up into the air, like dead high, and you know, they're in rhythm with the spirit. You know, you can see them. One thing about Africans are a lot of rhythm, and great singers as well, great voices on them. You know, it's like some blessed voice box that you got. And also, I find that the storytellers, so they'll just be telling stories within the music, through the art, through, you know, everything. There's always storytelling. You know, everything has its reasons, yeah, and also the drums, for example. Drums are very important. Drums are not just only used in Africa. You know, the drums are used in Pacific Islands, used in other parts of the world. So they're not just only. Now Africans have a style of drum. You know, the drum talk. You know, rather than like for example, you could have a meeting. Yeah, the drum. And the drum is like, during the slave trade, when they tried to ban the African drum and stuff like that, and they know that anything that's still keeping us attached to our true self, they always want to destroy. So then there's even like the souvenirs I brought back from even Madagascar. I'll just grab it a sec. I might as well while I'm here. Just give me a sec. Take this now. Like you can see this. Just like little souvenirs, but like I'm not too good at it, but some people would be good at it. But just like all these different instruments, different sounds, and these are things that connect us to nature. That's what it's about. And everything has its purpose. Sound waves, vibrations of the word. It's like when you hear different accents. When you hear African voice, you can hear a solid, strong vibration. Most Black people anywhere in the world have a strong vibration on the voice, so, and we are the people of nature wherever we go. And that's why it has been the mission to connect with the indigenous peoples and first-hand information, feeling the energy, and also how they connect with myself. So communication is very important with different people around the world. And communicating, it's not just, there's ways to do it, we even speak different languages, but like I was saying before, I show pictures to these tribes of different people around the world. So just by them looking at different people, to recognize that this, that's education for them. Exchange of knowledge. And that's how knowledge is always about, wherever you go, you're always going to learn some more. Experience of life teaching you the law. What I mean? That's what it's about. It is wherever you go, you'll always learn some more. Always. And there's no level to knowing everything. It's impossible to know everything. You get some people who think they know everything, but it's impossible. I'm learning from many guests I had on Discovering about, connecting to people there where I wanted to get on deeper levels about how did they view God, or how did they view the beginning. And then also speaking to some people where, the scientists say things like we evolved from the common ancestor with apes and all these things and that. And when I speak to oral history teachers who are into the spirituality, they don't connect to nothing like that. They've always been human beings, but there's good creation stories that they shared with me about, I asked questions like, where did we come from? So from their oral history, speaking of coming from the bowels of the earth, the inner earth, coming out the water, so it's deep. It is deep, and what we see, we in a physical body, but we can't see what's really out there. I mean? We only see what we see. So this is where your spiritual connection needs to connect. Some of us are in tune more than others. There's some people who are just not in tune at all. But I think with the indigenous peoples, their diets, their health, their medicines, their plants, their cures, their way of life, the good weather. So that lifestyle and the discipline and their love for their land, their attachment, these kind of people, these are attached to nature. They just can't take them apart. It's amazing to be still seeing these people in this day and age. And like I said, in years to come, You don't know what the plan is. Well, we all know what the plan is to destroy all indigenous, original natural life. You know that's the plan in the end, but how can it be preserved? That's the main thing. And he is, like you mentioned earlier, about certain groups that are set up to destroy rather than help. And there's many people who pretend that they're looking out for indigenous peoples, but really they're just stealing from them, and they're just there basically to cause confusion. So I think this is why a lot of people, in order to keep your culture intact, you have to really work with your own people. Everyone else, that's how everyone else gets on. And it's not down to you have anything against other people. It's not down to that. It's the fact that you've got to love your own, and love your culture and where you're
I
from.
think more than anything, it's not about here. Melanated people, yes, original people. It's about ancestry and lineage as well. I think that's why
Yeah,
a lot of us come from ancient tribes.
yeah,
With what's happened over the last 400 years, a lot of people have been displaced into space.
yeah,
So being put together and connect and share that level of knowledge that goes beyond what we just say.
yeah.
It's not spiritual connection that we have that influences back generations and generations. Being able to harness that, and build upon that, and not having to assimilate into this muted, bland, generic type of robot-like culture
Yeah.
is imperative.
I really felt bad for the Aboriginal Australians as well. When I was in Australia, I seen a lot of them, but I seen a lot of them on the streets, alcoholics, homeless, just like totally spaced off the head. Where any kind of conversation about he wouldn't even recognize his own tribe, maybe, and also what happened with them. Well, how the British treated them, taking them to breeding camps and making them, getting them lighter and lighter and lighter, and then trying to basically destroy the indigenous, the original. So all these experiments that we've already practiced on original peoples, Aborigines, then you can look at places also in the Pacific Islands, like Hawaii, for example. Total takeover there, and the American bases there. And I felt uncomfortable with that many people there when I was out in Hawaii. And such a beautiful island and up there, and it's just a total takeover. Another place where I've seen a lot of the bases there as well, Micronesia. These are like, and Guam is the part that went. And Guam's very Americanized. And there's a lot of other nice islands around there as well, where indigenous people was kind of preserve the culture a bit more. But like Yap and Palau, and there's the 3 island chains: Polynesia, Micronesia, and Melanesia. Melanesia meaning the Black Islands. That's what they called it, Melanesia. Polynesia, the many islands, and Micronesia, the small islands. So the 3 island chains, and then you have Australia, New Zealand, and these places now. So, but all these people, they're very spiritual people. Meeting the chiefs out in Fiji, and they're meeting the warrior, the tribes, the spokesman, and having to follow. When you're going to meet the chief, making sure that first of all you've got to report to the spokesman. The spokesman's house is only there, and then you take it to the chief's house all over the road. Make sure you take your shoes off. You got to sit down. You got to wear the traditional. You have to be traditionally dressed. Present the chief with kava. Kava is what they drink, like a kava plant. And then he'll come out, and then he was there with his wife the first time, the chief. And she had she had an afro, because a lot of women have afros there. And it's considered beauty. So there's no stress about having an afro in Fiji. They all have afros, and yeah, it was just amazing connecting with these people, because it was just like what they said. They say they come from Africa, and it just looks similar to African people anyway, black people, wherever we are in the world. So our people have moved around for years. We've never been a people who just stay still. We've moved around. Languages have spread, spirituality spread, civilizations have spread. And, they need to dig up more research on places like West Africa. We heard a lot about Egypt, you see. All we hear sometimes is Egypt, Egypt, Egypt. I mean, even though we proved that, yeah, it was African people, but we've got many parts of Africa that go way back, way before Egypt. Tens of thousands of years old. Places like Congo, Uganda, Nigeria. All these places got a very old history, but because the people deal with a lot of oral history, they don't deal with all that other stuff, All the history is how you preserve stuff, isn't it? Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. And it's about connect with people wherever they go. Years ago, when I first was traveling, I didn't have things like smartphones. Didn't have that. So it wasn't like years ago, I was even on social media when I was first traveling. So I lost a lot of touch with a lot of people, but at the same time, I've been able to regain a lot of the people we used to connect with through social media. So use that to my advantage to connect with the people worldwide. And that's how we should use it. Use it positive,
Time on social media and some things, but it's actually really powerful to sit and those connections and have conversations even like this. We could very easily be on the other side of the world from one another.
Yeah.
Able to communicate and converse.
Yeah.
And even learning things like language, I'm pretty sure if you go online now you can learn whatever languages that you want.
Yeah, language is very important. So important. So much information you can get about your history. Even just speaking French. There's books in French like Shaker and the Diop, even though the books are translated into English now, but there's probably other books that maybe it's only in French or just Spanish, or for example, African languages. And I think African languages are very, I love to, that's what I need to really do, learn an African language. Probably if I was to pick one, I'd go for the Yoruba, because it's widely spoken in Nigeria. Plus, as well, there's connections with in Brazil, they speak Yoruba, and places like Cuba. You got the places, different places with Haiti. So I'd go for that's what I'd go for, Yoruba. You got Swahili's a good one, but then it's not 100% African language. It's mixed with Arabic. Sorry.
What about mishmash, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. Where some people want you to believe that it's 100% African language, when a lot of people who speak true African languages, they don't recognize it as 100%. They recognize it Bantu, but it's also mixed with Arabic. So
a hybrid language.
Yeah, and we just got to be realistic of like, if you want to know African, connect back with our ancestors, we must connect with the African people. Connect with the African people of today. And, we're more or less halfway there,
Like these really beautiful poetic sayings that only exist in that language, and if you translate them to English, it doesn't make any sense. Really
that's so true,
there have been little bits of tree. I went over to Ghana recently. Tree quite well.
Okay.
Every time when he goes over there, it's like, oh, you're learning, but you spoke it his whole life. So just to learning it in England, this is totally different to being immersed and learning the language in the day, but you appreciate it when you at least make that attempt to speak it. And the tree language is it's funny because there's a lot of English words that could have very easily derived from trade and probably did. It also sounds a lot like Chinese in a lot of like certain Chinese dialects. There's like certain sounds because it's quite it's quite a nasally language, but then the dialect and how it flows is very similar to Patois in Jamaica. Sounds good. So it just shows it how the language is being transformed on different ways.
A lot of African languages are connected. Do you know what I mean? And like you've got Niger Congo, that's connected to Mandi. Niger Congo is connected to Bantu. Then there's a connection to the ancient Egyptian language in Kemet, where these certain words like the NTU is connected, like you got Bantu, a lot of the similarities. So when people say that nobody speaks the ancient Kemetic language anymore, it's in African languages, different places, so. But it's learning African languages because you could go probably a place where one country and they speak hundreds of languages, one single language, different dialects, you know what I mean? So yeah, Africans are very clever because some Africans I've come across, you can speak about 8 languages, so wow, Africans are very intelligent people. Yeah. But yeah, so it's been very interesting having these discussions and that, and appreciate your time and your questions.
Well, thank you, James. It's been a great conversation as always. It's been come away and having learned something and having grown just a little bit every time we speak. So thank you for your time. And thank you for all the work that you do because it's so important.
That's right.
People that wouldn't necessarily have access to that knowledge, and also it allows people to tell their stories and to connect to really part of things what we need. So thank you very much for all the work that you're doing. It's appreciated, I'm sure, by a lot of people, and not just me. Yeah,
well, that's I'm just going to keep connecting with our peoples, and that's all people got to do. I think that we need more podcast shows. We need different people doing promoting basically stuff that we can all relate to. What's relatable, and sometimes don't just do a show just because it's popular and you want to do things like a trend. I'm not on the trend. I just want to bring the truth, and that's it. And hopefully more people can get on this type of knowledge too. We got a long history. We've got a very, very long history. We are ancient people. Ancient people. We shouldn't be going through what we're going through now with the ancient knowledge we have.
And I'm sure we can convene, part 2 sometime in the future and continue this discussion because it's literally a discussion that could never end.
I'll tell you, definitely though, yeah. But it's been great anyway, gone for the good while now. We touched on different topics, the Discovering Show, Indigenous peoples, African history, identity, culture, so there's a whole range of things that we could cover, and that's what makes it so great that we can always look forward to the next conversation, and I want to thank all the people who came on as guests as well on Discovering yourself and other people's some great contributions some people has made. And there's some people who told me that they'd never actually done a podcast until they actually come on the podcast. So that's a good thing, so, come out your comfort zone, so yeah, it's definitely I'm more focused on now though, now that I'm doing the Zooms more so. And we'll be doing live ones as well soon where, I'm slowly building up my studio. I've got my table now. I'm slowly trying to, it's not easy, but it takes time.
The way you've been doing it, it's kind of like I call it 1-on-1. So you just go in and do it organic. You have to use the phone, if you have to use a video camera, whatever. As long as you're visual, audio, you know, the photographs make it
Mhm.
work. I think that's the beauty and the creativity of storytelling. You know, it can happen in so many different forms, whether it's music or, you know, conversation or imagery. Like, as long as the story's told, that's the main thing.
That's true, isn't it? You know, it is. It's getting, and hopefully, more people, can connect to this kind of indigenous peoples around the world and recognize them that they are keeping the earth alive. You know, totally. I think once people start acknowledging these things, because we're getting more. Look at the weather, for example. The weather is changing. You know, what do you call it? Climate change, global warming, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, we can clearly see that Earth's being destroyed. And got to look at Earth like a person, a human, or something, and then,
Different life. And I think this all this conversation about climate change is there's a key component that's being missed out, and it is Indigenous peoples, which
yeah,
is why last year when the biennial did the climate series in Liverpool, and we asked the Return Project were able to put on an event at the Open Eye Gallery, and the theme of it was Mother Africa, because it's important to acknowledge the Indigenous peoples that do look after the planet and look after the earth and have that history and that knowledge and that connection with the earth that we cannot ignore. To ignore that is a criminal offence, should be. And I think a lot of people, again, like what we're talking about science, that kind of thinking that we know, the smartest people know that we don't know anything. But when people
that's right.
think much, that's when problems appear.
Yeah,
So really, we need to really focus on like preserving and looking after our people who are looking after the earth and stuff as well.
yeah. Because everyone's seen the weather completely change. Look at the amount of tsunamis that have happened since in the last whatever, and look at the amount of earthquakes. And I'm not saying they haven't always happened, but they've happened very frequently. Floods. There's always something going on. So nature. The one thing it is that with the laws of man, but then laws of nature, and nature will always win.
Yeah.
Can't defeat nature. It doesn't matter what technology you've got. When you start thinking you're too independent from this, So, but yeah, it's been great anyway, though.
Let's continue this discussion next time because we can go into a whole different situation about climate.
Definitely anyway, and I look forward to the next time anyway. And I want to thank you very much, Janiece. We'll catch up again. God bless. Peace. Peace.